Save Jerseyans, how you doing? This is Matt Rooney, your blogger in chief. I am proud to be back in the Boardwalk Empire, Atlantic City, to kick off our 2017 interview series with candidates that I think of are interest to you. As you know, we're busy, so we don't go around the state and just talk to everybody. We seek out those politicians who we respect and we think are worth you meeting, supporting, and following as we head into another crazy New Jersey election cycle. So the only logical place to start was with Assemblyman Chris Brown, our friend, the only Republican representative at the moment in the 2nd Legislative District, but we hope that changes soon.
We sure do. We sure do. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for being here. Hello to all your listeners and bloggers.
Yep, it's an ever-growing audience, and we know they're going to be tuned in to watch your race this year. I think the last time you and I had a chance to sit down, it was right before 2015.
That's right.
When you ran last time. And it was right before the super PACs came in and
Holy.
just dumped an avalanche on your head. And you're still here.
Yeah, we're still here. Holy mackerel. You go figure. You're right, man. Last time we spoke, it was getting ready.
Yep.
And, there's a South Jersey political boss who wields a lot of money around. And what he tries to do is through negative campaigning and just promulgating one false story after another. And luckily in Atlantic County in particular, people here are smart. And they saw right through it, and they actually held it against the guy I was running against. And the word that I got repeatedly, and the guy that I was running against is Mazzeo, is that, he might mean well, but clearly he's just not up for the job. That he just doesn't have necessarily the intellect, and he has other people proving that by running a campaign for him full of negativity and lies. So we welcome the super PACs to spend their money. This way it frees it up for our other Republicans to win throughout the state. Spend it down here in the 2nd District. We welcome it. It's been unsuccessful. Over $4 million of outside special interest money of political insiders and cronies and bosses trying to buy seats so that they can then do a lot more damage to the poor men and women who actually live and work here. So we'll keep fighting, and we got through one, and we're going to get ready for another.
You mentioned Vince Mazzeo. For anybody who doesn't know outside the district, he's the other assemblyman down here. He's a Democrat. Despite all this money that came in, he still finished second to you in the vote total.
Yeah.
That one debate performance he had was horrible. When I think of the 2nd Legislative District, I still come back to that. He was asked a series of pointed questions, and he couldn't answer them. And if you can get me to feel bad for a South Jersey Democrat, right, that's an accomplishment.
Well, I tell you, that the campaigns are about creating differences and contrasts. And one of the most important issues to the people in Atlantic County in particular was to stop North Jersey casinos. And everybody knows, it's not a secret that Mazzeo is bossed. And his boss wanted him to take a dive on North Jersey casinos. But he couldn't tell everybody he's taking a dive on North Jersey casinos, so he had to pretend that he was against them. So when he got called on the fact that he whited his name off a resolution to stop him, the truth came out. And when you look, and you can, it's biblical. People have been selling their souls for a few coins of silver, for title and lands, for thousands of years, and he's just the latest in a long series. And then what's more disappointing, though, is that after the election, after he really geared up to tell them the whopper that he's against North Jersey casinos, we had 7 hearings. He didn't show up for one. He didn't show up to testify for the people of Atlantic County. He didn't show up once. Now, in the Army, if you're absent without leave, it's called AWOL. You go to jail.
Yeah.
For crying out loud, the people here elected him to represent them. They said, and he said to them, I'm going to fight this thing. Forget my political boss. I'm not bought and paid for. I'm my own guy. And then he didn't show up. 7 different times. He had an opportunity to say something to fight for the people of Atlantic County, and 7 times he was missing. And it's sad. I mean, I know some of his cohorts, I think they call him Missing Mazzeo or something to that effect, but it's unfortunate. But these are the things that the people of Atlantic County are smart.
Right.
And they're tired of special interests buying local people and then having them actually work against the will of those who elected them. Big money should be working for the people. They flipped it around and they got big money causing people like Mazzeo to work for them. And so we're going to stay positive and just keep getting the message out there. And hopefully, if we decide to keep moving forward, we'll be successful.
Yeah, I mean, in our legal career, we call that malpractice. If you just don't show up to court, you don't show up to meetings for clients, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
And people get that.
Right. People understand he had 7 opportunities. And you want to hear a funny story. So one of the hearings, now not only did Mazzeo not show up, but, and I have to give Speaker Prieto and Assemblyman McKeon a lot of credit, because Assemblyman McKeon was a chairman of the Judiciary Committee where the casino bill was being heard. And I'm not on that committee, but Speaker Prieto allowed me to sit on the committee, and Chairman McKeon allowed me to be on that committee. And I was fortunate, my own caucus, Michael Patrick Carroll, allowed me to fill in for him. So I had to go through a lot of work to get on the committee, and I'm in the minority party. Mazzeo, my counterpart, he didn't even show up to testify, let alone get on the committee. So I'm sitting up there one time on the committee. I get this text from a friend of mine, Greg Sikora, who had come up to Trenton to participate, testify against the casinos, and to listen. And I get a text that says, "Hey, Mazzeo showed up, maybe it'll help." And as I lift my head up and I look over from reading what he said, I see him, he looks, he realizes he made a mistake, he's in the wrong room, he doesn't want to be here, and he turns around and leaves. Now, how do you do that? Like, he was in the building, and instead of staying and testifying and helping out the people who he promised he would do it for, he left. So, people understand.
He probably had to call somebody in Camden County to get directions.
Who knows?
He didn't know whether to turn left or right for the bathroom, so he had to check back with the mothership.
He went in he wound up in the room with the most important issue for his district by accident, and then when he realized he was there, he left. How do you do that?
You can't make this stuff up.
I can't make it up.
That's
a true story. The guy showed up by accident. Oh, I'm supposed to be here, and then he left. That's funny, right?
Another day in the life of a New Jersey taxpayer. This is what we have to put up with.
Well, it's unfortunate.
But you were successful. I mean, through your efforts and the efforts of other forces down here against incredible odds and more super PAC money, you managed to...
4 super PACs so far they're up to. Each one with ties to Camden County. It all comes back. But every time they get outed, it goes away, and they create a brand new super PAC. I couldn't make that up. So I've actually take pride in knowing that I have been attacked by 4 different super PACs, spending over $4 million just trying to buy people. Right. And so you say we got the mess out. I hope people like yourself who bring the truth, and you can circumvent false super PAC ads and special interest. But it's the people of Atlantic County. They get it. In other words, it's that grassroots movement that they're like, come on, man. Tell us something real. Yeah. Give us an issue. Form a sentence. Explain to us why you're better than the other guy. Don't spend all this money on your super PACs and just beat up on somebody who's lived and worked here his whole life. So fortunately, thanks to the people of Atlantic County, the super PAC money wasn't able to work.
Yeah. And now they have an opportunity to kind of reshuffle the deck in 2017 because not only are yourself and Assemblyman Mazzeo up for election, assuming you decided to run for assembly again, but we also have this vacant state Senate seat.
That's right.
Word's also on the street, making its way out there on the blogosphere and in the ether and the internet that you have an announcement coming up next Friday on the 27th of January. I don't want to box you into any big announcements right now and steal your thunder, but maybe this is the best way to go about this conversation, because I know you're going to have an opinion about that Senate race, regardless of whether you're in it. Longtime state senator Jim Whalen, former Atlantic City mayor, stepping aside, retiring. A lot of people think he's a nice guy, but a lot of people have seriously questioned, along the lines of your Mazzeo criticism, whether his heart's really been in the fight for Atlantic City and for Atlantic County up in Trenton. I know there's that famous picture of him floating around with an infamous South Jersey political boss at an eatery, huddling. Again, we could talk forever about that and just make that an interview. Right. What do you think that Atlantic County needs in a state senator that it doesn't have right now?
Independent leadership, someone who's able to be decisive, who's able to earn the respect of his peers, who actually has original ideas and thoughts, actually fights for the district and not the crumbs of another county, that puts the words Atlantic County back into Trenton Right now, we become South Jersey, which is just code for political boss. We're
Yeah.
Atlantic County, and for throughout the history, we've had proud representation in that Senate, from Farley to Gormley to Persky, and these are the types of names and types of leadership that we're used to. And so,
Love them or hate them, they were strong men. They had their opinions and they asserted themselves, and Atlantic County benefited.
and Atlantic County benefited, but the people who live and work here, you know, that mom who gets up early to get her kids to school so that she can go to work, so that she can then come home to take her kids to sporting events, so that she can then come home to make them dinner, so that she can go to bed to get up and do it all again the next day. She's counting on people like us to represent her and work hard for her, make sure that we do everything we can to improve her life. That's what she's hoping. And I would just argue with the person that's been there now, he's just doing everything he can to make his political boss life better.
Right.
And once you lose the sight of the very people that have elected you in the first place, you really don't belong there. You're subverting the very underpinnings that make this country great by not serving the people, but rather serving special interests or party bosses. And that is so infiltrated so many different levels of our government, but it's never more evident or clear than in the 2nd District of Atlantic County. And you look at the caliber of the people that they get, and you get the people that aren't that bright and aren't really able to advocate on behalf of the people, and they have to be told what to say and told what to do, and then given money to get reelected. And it's time that the people of Atlantic County had real representation for them. Independent, strong leadership, someone who's willing to stand up to his own party when it's right, somebody who won't back down from a fight when it's right, and somebody who will be there for them when they need them. And I think they see that, they understand that, and that's the kind of thing that I look forward to bringing to Atlantic County families.
Because right now, Trenton continues to treat this county, and Atlantic City in particular, where your law office is, where we are today, like a political football. And, you know, I if you don't laugh, you cry when you read some of the most recent headlines coming out of the city. I was reading the other day that we now have the city's business administrator who stood with Mayor Guardian, Don Guardian, the Republican mayor of Atlantic City, in opposition to the state takeover, which was finalized by the board back in November. Now he's been hired by the state.
Here's the beauty, Matt, and what you couldn't make this up, but
you can't make this stuff up. I'll let you explain it, but
it's unbelievable. Well, how the story unfolds is like this: you have Senator Sweeney, Senator Whalen, and Senator Mazzeo saying, "We're incapable of leading. We're not able to make decisions, and we can't fix anything." So
because that happens in Trenton all the time.
Yeah,
they're so good at making decisions and taking care of their own affairs.
Right.
Yeah.
So these three guys, Sweeney, Whale, Mazzeo, all most would argue sent there by their political boss, but the three of them say, we can't figure anything out. So we're asking you, Governor, come in and take over Atlantic City. But you know what, Governor? We don't want any transparency. We don't want you to give it to the finance board. Governor, we want you to pick an insider, somebody who's just your representative, and we want you to give them full authority to monetize any asset. So, Governor, please send somebody down here who we have no supervisory opinion or ability to control. Please send somebody down here who will have no idea what you're going to pay him. You can pay him whatever you want. Governor, please send somebody down here who can buy or sell any asset the city has at his whim with no explanation, with no minutes to a meeting. And so we fought it. We said, what, are you insane? What kind of government is that? How do you just send down a designee who's going to monetize? You have Bader Field, which is worth $500 million. You have a water company worth $500 million, and you have a political boss who's been trying to get his hands on this for quite some time. And now his puppets are telling the governor to send somebody down here who's this designee with no oversight, no supervision. And so he does. So
Monopoly is a great game, but it's no way to treat one of your number one state resources, which is this waterfront property we call Atlantic City.
That's right. And so now one of the things that happens is we fight it. We say, no, there should be transparency. We should see a plan. We shouldn't just hand it over to a designee. It should be done properly. It's public property. It's public funds, and this is taxpayer dollars, and we should make sure that they're looked out for. So the city comes up with a plan that actually works, that Moody says, hey, City of Atlantic City, that plan is robust, and they compliment Holt for being part of this plan. And of course, the Sweeney says, no, we reject that plan. And why, Senator? Because it's too vague. Well, Senator, what's your plan? We don't have one.
Right.
Well, it doesn't get more vague than we don't have one. And so the guy without a plan says a designee down here now. Now the designee's making $400 an hour. That's taxpayer dollar, by the way. And it takes them an hour to drive here and an hour to go home. So every day, the taxpayers of the state of New Jersey are paying $800. But it gets better. Because if you take the 800 and you times it during a week, that's 4,000. That's 4,000 a week, 16,000 a month, $192,000 a year. Taxpayers are paying a guy to be a monitor of Atlantic City just to drive here and drive home. Now I said we should buy him a home because at least then he'll pay property taxes down here in the place where he's pulling the money out of.
You can't argue with that.
And he wants to have a $130 an hour person with him, which just upped everything. And on top of it, what they said was, oh, I guess the guy that they sent down from the state at $400 an hour really doesn't have any qualifications. He never negotiated that. He's never worked in a municipality. He doesn't understand bonds. He doesn't understand the inner workings of Atlantic City or Atlantic County. And yet we're going to pay him $400 an hour. So what does he do? He hires a city's expert that they said wasn't smart enough to figure out a plan to fix Atlantic City so they could send their crony down here in the first place. And that's all a true story. And it just keeps getting worse. And that's why we need independent leadership. We need somebody who's actually going to say, hey, wait a minute, this makes no sense whatsoever.
If it wasn't government, the word for all this would be RICO.
Yeah.
That's what the government in New Jersey looks like. It is. It's like RICO. It's unbelievable. And I mean, that's the part that I thought was stunning about this most recent development, because it's basically them admitting, them being the powers that be in Trent, the administration, Sweeney, etc., the bosses, that this was never about their vision for Atlantic City versus your vision, and they're going to be strong-armed in making sure their vision wins. This is 100% about milking the cow until the udder's dry.
It is...
until the last casino worker's family has nothing to give their family next Christmas.
That's the sad part.
Yeah.
If I didn't see firsthand as a person trying to represent all the good people who live here, the horror show and the downside, and why it is so unfortunate that outside special interests have just really gained a foothold here. You would look at it and you think that this can't be happening. Mm-hmm. They sent a $400 an hour guy who's getting $192 just to drive to and from work in a town where we have 13,000 people who just got laid off. The highest foreclosure rate in the country.
Which I don't think even in this state a lot of people watching this will be able to relate to. When half the adults in your town suddenly are either unemployed or have a close family member or friend who's without their job. Like that.
Right.
That's what's been happening down here.
Right. And we've been treading water and trying to swim to shore, and every time we get a little closer, they tie a rock around our leg and throw it down. And so this latest maneuver where they're coming in with their takeover plan, and I think the people see it. They see that the clear path to shore, the clear path to safety is through independent leadership. Somebody who's actually going to represent them, as opposed to the bosses and the insiders and everybody who's so entrenched at the trough.
Yeah, and this is one of the arguments that I made to some of my readers and other legislators and people we interact with at SaveJersey.com when the whole casino expansion debate was going on. I'm a conservative. I'm a free market guy. But that casino expansion plan was not a free market plan. It was a take some of the chief financiers for these crooked politicians we're talking about and give them their own monopolies in New Jersey. We're not opening it up to the free market so everybody can have a casino and let the strongest, best proposal win. Yeah. It was another giveaway. And luckily enough, voters here and elsewhere saw that.
They saw through it, and you're right. There were so many different reasons not to like the idea, and that being one of them. If you're saying, look, Brown, we don't agree with your protectionism, and if the state can do better with casinos in other parts and through the free market, I understand, respect that argument.
It's at least an honest position.
It's an honest position, an honest argument, and then we can debate it. We can talk about. But one of the easiest things to say that goes to the way they were going to do it, if I'm the CEO of Wawa, and I know that opening one here and opening one there is going to destroy this one, and they're not going to make enough money to make up for what I do to this Wawa, I don't open them because I'm not going to destroy my own business and make less money just so I can open two new ones. And as CEOs for this state, there was no intellectual debate going on. I would say to people, I would say, well, what's the tax rate? Well, we don't know yet. What do you mean you don't know? I had one senator actually point out that, well, we're going to let the developers, based upon the size of the structure that they want to build, suggest to us what the tax rate should be. I said, really? So you're the tail's going to wag the dog. The developer's going to tell us what the tax rate's going to be. I mean, so that's the kind of conversation that was going on. And
thank God we don't wear makeup for these interviews, because I would have rubbed it off by now.
Yeah, it's
listening
amazing.
to these stories. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, so the long and the short of it is, again, when you give it to the voters of the state of New Jersey, people are smart.
They get it.
They're like, wow, wait a minute, what's the tax rate? And somebody promised me a brand new house and 2 cars and money in my backyard. You're like, that can't, like, if it's too good to be true, it isn't.
It is.
And if somebody's pushing it that hard without wanting hearings, without wanting public input, without really trying to get to the crux and have an honest debate, then somebody's going to get bamboozled when this thing's over. Because whenever somebody's trying to hide something, there's a reason.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Right.
And they haven't stopped trying. So at some point, I'm sure, whether it be this cycle or the next, we'll have to have a discussion just on Atlantic City to talk about some of these issues. But at least one other Atlantic City topic I wanted to talk to you about, because, again, people, I think sometimes that Save Jersey, as we continue to grow, they make the mistake of thinking I'm their state senator or I'm in charge of the NJGOP, and they send me these emails. They say, can you explain this, or why isn't the senator doing this? And I'm like, I don't know, ask them. Do I look like I'm Chris Christie's keeper? God knows I'm not. Ask him and he'll give you an answer about that.
That'd be a tough job.
Atlantic City pilot. Okay,
Yeah.
this fight that's going on in Atlantic County, and it crosses partisan lines. One of the things that amazes me about it in the strictly political analysis, Assemblyman, is we've often seen politicians be on both sides of an issue.
Right.
But the politicians have created like 6 sides to this thing, where it's almost impossible to follow. And I think folks that don't live near a major New Jersey city or aren't familiar with this debate don't understand this concept, where you have places like Atlantic City where there are major property estate holders who aren't paying property taxes like the rest of us. Maybe over the course of a decade, they're paying a set, agreed upon sum. Could you maybe explain this concept a little bit and where you come down on it?
Sure. Well, you mentioned the acronym PILOT, and that stands for Payment in Lieu of Taxes. And that's simply a way to set a set tax rate and then collect that number every year for a period of years. So normally, tax assessor comes out, he looks at your home, he figures out your square footage, he figures out comparables, and they say your house is worth $100 because the neighbor's is and that one is, and that seems to be the way it is.
And you get that cute little card in the mail that
That's
tells
right.
you what they say your house is worth.
That's
and it's
right.
nowhere near the market value,
Of
but
course not.
it's what they say it is.
Of course not. And so they have what it's worth, and then they set a rate, and then you pay pursuant to the rate, you pay a fee. So with the casinos, under Whalen is when it started in the 90s, he overvalued the casinos. He set them at saying they're worth $100 when the courts really said they're worth $70. So he collected $30 that he wasn't entitled to. And instead of saving that money in case he lost the tax appeal, he spent it. And then when the court said you had to pay the casino that money that you own, which is actually hundreds of millions in the 90s, first time it happens under his watch, overvaluing the casinos, taking the money, spending it, and then losing, then he has to pay them back. So what he did is he borrowed money to pay back the money that he shouldn't have spent in the first place. Now, fortunately, Atlantic City was doing well in the 90s, and so it absorbed the debt and it paid it. But what happened was, as we continued to move forward, the city, even after Whalen, continued to overvalue the casinos. And then when they overvalued them, and then they lost the tax appeals, they would borrow the money with the precedent set by Whalen. This is how we do it. We're going to overvalue them. We're going to get their money. For example, they said Borgata was worth $2.2 billion. Borgata said we're worth $880 million. Borgata filed the appeal in about 2008. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. For 6 years, the city collected taxes at $2.2 billion. Hoping, I guess, we're just going to win.
Right.
They didn't put any money away, and the court said it's $880 million. So they had over $100 million that they had to pay back. At that point, the city had bonded too much, and with the lower of the valuations and the property values, it was out of time and out of luck. So what happened is you had some politicians who said, let's fix the tax rate. And Assemblyman Mazzeo told the press of Atlantic City, the pilot bill that I introduced was written by the Casino Association. And if you look at who's on the representative of that, and you look at who pays his super PAC ads, you realize that it's a super PAC that just had their guy write the legislation that Mazzeo freely admits he wasn't bright enough to write, and he had to have somebody else do it for him. So why not go right to the Fox to write the legislation for the hens? And that's what he did. He went right to the Fox.
It's about what it is.
The Fox wrote the legislation, and Mazzeo started pushing it. And I said, whoa. First of all, why don't we just fairly value the casinos and treat them like any other business in the world, let alone the state of New Jersey?
Said another way, do it right the first time.
Do it right. And so Mazzeo didn't have an answer. So then I said, hey Mazzeo, the way you're valuing the casinos, you're saying that if you're Caesars and you buy this great restaurant that's already on the tax rolls in the city of Atlantic City, and now you own it, it comes off the city's tax rolls, but that casino pays no more money. Or if a casino builds a mega outdoor concert setting, they pay no more money. I said, how can you do that? It's absurd. Yeah. I said, if I put a shack in the back of my house, the assessor's going to show up and say you got to pay more in taxes because your house is worth more. So we're able to convince, we never convinced him because I really don't think he understood it from the start. Yeah. So we went to other legislators and we were able to explain to them, and they said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And we also were able to at least add a 2% per year increase in what the casinos pay. And it's been my position from the beginning that, look, I get it. You take the money from the super PACs, so you're going to do their bidding. But somebody has to stand up for the families here who actually have to pay the taxes. So when you freeze the casinos, and everybody knows things go up, they don't go down. Right. And they don't pay any more, or even their fair share, who pays the balance? All of us who live and work here.
Well, right. It's not as if those obligations that are relying on that money just get deferred.
Right.
It just gets passed on to somebody else, and that person it gets passed on to is the small business owner, the retiree, the working family.
Right. You just nailed it. And
I'm not a genius. My readers know this. So if I can figure it out, if you have a pin and a vanity license plate, I'd like to think that you could comprehend this. But you're in a minority. You're in the minority in more than one respect, not just party, but also understanding simple math. Yeah. I'm getting my dander up here a little bit.
But long and the short of it is that's sort of it. It's a program that has fixed the casino's tax rate, and we're able to make 8 changes ultimately. If I had my way, if the city was really, I think, done properly, they probably would have gone into bankruptcy, gotten rid of the debt, reset the size of the city so that it could be handled right, just like they did in Detroit.
And it worked pretty well for Detroit.
It worked very well.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, you have a bankruptcy judge as opposed to an insider crony, and all the vultures flying around. I mean, this is taxpayer dollars. The assets of the city of Atlantic City are not just, of course, the city's assets, but they're the people's assets. Everybody who lives in the state of New Jersey owns those things, and right now they're being doled out by a political insider without any oversight.
Right. We could have had an expert sit down and look at this, somebody who deals with the bankruptcy of large corporations and public entities all the time and made a decision, as opposed to this dynamic where you have vultures just kind of fighting over a bone.
And the city sent in the $400 an hour guy, the state did, and he said, I really don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to hire the city guy who we said planned wasn't good enough.
How do we get that job? We screwed up.
No, we'd be in prison.
We'd be
in prison because I wouldn't know how to do it.
And orange is not my color.
Right.
It would not have worked.
I don't think we last too long in it.
So, I mean, it goes without saying that this guy, we're not idle flatterers at Save Jersey, but as you can get, besides the fact that we agree with him most of the time, he actually gets this stuff, which puts him in the top 10% of legislators. So we enjoy speaking with Assemblyman Brown so much. Beyond your race this year, and we know this is going to be the epicenter of New Jersey's political universe. Again, the money is going to come in. It's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be highly covered. We also have a gubernatorial race going on that's going to be, a distraction for many people. On the Republican side, we have a legit primary.
Sure.
We have Lieutenant Governor Guadagno. We have Assemblyman Jack Ciattarelli, a colleague of yours. Then we have a couple other candidates. Nutley Commissioner Steve Rogers seems like a pretty okay guy. We're going to be interviewing him soon. On the Democrat side, there's a couple people running, but it looks like, for all intents and purposes, they're going to rely on another Goldman Sachs gazillionaire, Phil Murphy, because that's worked great for New Jersey in the past. Bringing in the Wall Street wizard to fix everything.
Right.
I know you've got your own stuff going on, but have you had time to think about the race? Have you had time to settle on a Republican candidate? Any thoughts you have to offer, I think, would be useful for our audience. Sure. Because like you, we're all active conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, and we're trying to make hay of what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I think we're fortunate on the Republican side with Jack Ciattarelli, as someone who I've served with for the past 5 years, he's solid, thoughtful, somebody who would just do a great job. And by the same token, Kim Guadagno fits that mold as well. Now, from a personal standpoint, Kim has been someone who's been coming down here and working for Atlantic County and doing things with Atlantic County, and has developed such a personal, local working relationship that Kim is a candidate that I am endorsing or backing, however they put it.
Right.
But she understands this as well, that doesn't mean that I don't believe that Jack Ciattarelli would not do a great job. Jack is somebody who I had the privilege and honor to work with, but Kim and I have developed a relationship from on the ground here in Atlantic County, because obviously Jack has his own district that he's worried about. Kim has been working towards the entire state, and so we're more local, more present, and more close in that relationship. So
said another way, she's actually done her job. And I don't mean that to diminish her in any respect, but as we know, just because you have the pin or the title, it doesn't mean you actually put in the footwork, at least in your own state.
Right. She has.
And he's all, I love Assemblyman Ciattarelli too, because one of the things I think you guys have in common is you're, again, two of the only legislators that consistently speaks your mind. Right. When the other side's wrong, and also when your own party's wrong, from the governor on down.
Absolutely.
So we're fortunate in that respect, and either of them will be, shoulders above. Phil Murphy.
I tend to agree that history tends to repeat itself. The background of the Democratic leader tells us that he's not in touch with reality. No. So hopefully the voters will be willing to once again reach over and bring in a different, a new and a refreshing leader in Kim Guadagno or Jack Ciattarelli.
Now, heading forward into this election cycle, I think there's a lot of folks in New Jersey who are just so tired of the system that they feel as if there's absolutely no path ahead. It's Republican that's let me down. It's Democrat that's
scary,
let me down. It's scary. And I mean, you think whether you loved him or hate him, Donald Trump is very much a reaction to that, right? We finally wanted an outsider. You've been very successful here, though. We've talked about that today in Atlantic County with being able to be who you are, which is an independent broker. What would be your advice to other politicians running around New Jersey about how to pull that off? Particularly and I want to add one more thing. We're not trying to pump, too much sunshine at them, but, you've also done this in a not safe district. There's only a few districts left, so you don't have this...
2 Ds and just me.
Yeah, you don't have this Republican safety net to protect you. You've had to do this largely on your own, so... we're looking for advice.
Yeah, I guess what I would say to you is what I'd say to anybody. First and foremost, be yourself.
Yeah.
And it gets scary, right? Because you go up against it, and you're very vulnerable, and you're putting your name on the line, and you're asking the public in many ways, hey, will you please consider me? And so it's at those moments when you're most vulnerable that people are willing to compromise. And the minute you compromise once, you compromise twice and 3 times. So I'd say to anybody, remember, it's something that you do. It's not who you are. And do not allow your own self-esteem or your own self-worth to be wrapped up in whether or not you win. It's a job. You apply for the job, you hand in your resume, and if the boss man, which in this case is the public, likes you, you get the job. If they don't like you, you go look for another job. But unfortunately, ego and emotions oftentimes will send people into a direction where they wake up in the morning and you're Mazzio, and you're doing everything to harm your own district, not because you want to, because you sold your soul for whatever reason. It's biblical. So I'd say just be strong, man. If you get in a fight for the right reason. Fight like hell. Don't give up, and don't back down, and stay on them, and point out where they're wrong. Point out why you would do better. Point out why you care. And at the end of the day, the people are going to say, yeah, I like that guy. It makes sense. They're going to say, take a hike, you bum. Why? And either way, who cares?
Why do you think it's so hard? Do you think it's biographical? You were in the service. Mm-hmm. You're a veteran of Iraq.
Right.
You're used to getting shot at, which with real bullets, not just the verbal assault you get from these politicians. Is that it, or is it something environmental? You surround yourself with the right people. You have a strong, wonderful family like you do. I mean, why can you figure this out, and these other politicians don't seem to be able to get there?
Wow. Well, of course, in Atlantic City, Atlantic County, and where I grew up, they always say there's something in the war that makes us a little off. So maybe that answers.
You're talking to a guy from Camden County,
right.
so
well, then
the same well must draw for both cities or something. Yeah.
I guess the only thing I've been blessed, and even though my childhood and my life has been rife with challenges, I've been able to process them and move on, and I feel a benefit and become stronger from them. When I was 12, my mom left. My dad raised me, and then he died of cancer when I was a junior in college. He took loans because he didn't know he'd get sick and die. He could get loans in my name cheap, but I had an Army scholarship. So when he died, I had to pay back those loans and then get through college. Now, I was blessed, though. This is my point. Right. I was blessed because my dad gave me unconditional love, and he let me know that I am a special, unique snowflake. And life has taught me, he was just saying that because he was my dad.
Right. But the snowflakes don't hold up well in this state or anywhere else, right? No.
But the point is, so then you get activated for war on 2 occasions, and then I was blessed to be able to marry my high school sweetheart, Christine, and have 3 children with her. And so I just say, you're born here and you die here, and in between you try to do as much good as you can. If you can help people, then that's great, because ultimately our goal should not be to win an election. It should be to go to heaven. And you only get that opportunity while you're here on this planet. A lot of people look at their time on the planet as permanent, and their time in the afterlife is transitory. Well, they got it backwards. Our time on this planet is transitory, and then the afterlife is permanent. So if we have opportunities to help people and do the right thing, you need to do it. And so that's just a philosophy that I learned from a boy going through some difficult times, through the service in the Army, and then just through life. And so we're all blessed. You're blessed. Look at this great blog show that you have, and you're successful.
It's proof that there's a God, because I still didn't understand why anybody reads it.
That's great.
My family, I guess they have to love me, but these people don't. Thank you. Listen, I should probably shut up now, because, that's about as good an answer as we've ever gotten to anything. It's refreshing, it's poignant, and it's something that, frankly, I wish the other members of the legislature would not only hear, but they would take to heart. Again, we're with Assemblyman Chris Brown, maybe State Senator Brown soon. I don't know. We've got an announcement coming up on the 27th, so we'll see. But either way, Save Jerseyans know that we always put people in 2 boxes in New Jersey. Not Rhino, conservative, not Democrat, Republican. It's people that take up space, like Vince Mazzio and Jim Whalen, and then real people who actually give a damn about the taxpayers. This guy. So it's always good to be in Atlantic City, but it's especially good to be down here with him. So, Assemblyman, we wish you the best of luck in whatever's ahead.
Yeah.
And we'll be there to cover it and cheer you on. And thanks for giving us some time.
Oh, you can. Thank you, Matt. It was great, and I really appreciate everything. Thank you.